You're listening to EchoZone FM, a transmission from the thresholds of reality. Stories where the line between truth and illusion begins to fade. Tonight, we open the signal again. Welcome back to EchoZone FM. Today's signal pulls us deeper, beneath a town still cloaked in twilight, where timelines blur and shadows loop in on themselves. In episode 2 of The Never-Ending Night, Mara Jennings follows the echoes through strange anomalies, fading memories, and the possibility that Eldridge has always been fractured. Something is shifting, and this time, it might not shift back. The story continues now.
The Never-Ending Night, Part 2. Chapter 5. Sideways Shadows. That night, Mara lay in bed with her back to the window, unable to close her eyes for long. Behind her eyelids, the forest replayed in bursts, the faint glow of the sphere, the feeling of air collapsing inward, the way her name seemed to echo through the trees even after she'd left. She didn't sleep. Not really. More like hovered, suspended in that half state between waking and dream. Somewhere in the corner of her room the recorder blinked, silent, watchful. Then came a soft click. She hadn't touched it. At sunrise, if you could still call it that, she stepped outside and paused. No sun. Just the same muted, starless twilight that had swallowed the town the day before. Eldridge was still holding its breath. The streets felt different now. Not just quiet, distorted. Like someone had stretched them slightly, the way a mirror warps when you press your hand against it. Shop signs flickered at the corners. Leaves shimmered like static. And the air, it pulsed. She stopped at the diner. Familiar faces were gathered around coffee mugs, whispering. They looked up as she entered, not surprised but expectant, as if she were already part of whatever story was writing itself here. A man at the counter tapped the salt shaker. "Thought I saw my old dog yesterday, the one that died 3 winters ago." A woman nodded slowly. "I passed a man on Willow Street this morning. I turned to say hello. And he wasn't there." Mara recorded it all. She didn't ask questions anymore. She just listened. The stories came unprompted now. Glitches in time, voices out of sequence, brief flashes of landscapes that didn't belong to Eldridge at all. It wasn't just a strange day anymore. It was something deeper, like reality itself had loosened around the seams, and pieces from somewhere else were slipping in. Chapter 6. Convergence. The forest had changed, not in the obvious creaking branch or wrong colour kind of way, but in the subtler details. Trees grew in strange, spiralling patterns. The path she'd taken yesterday no longer led to the same clearing, and the fog hung lower now, clinging to her shoes like reluctant memory. Mara pressed forward, a handheld recorder in her coat pocket and a digital compass blinking inconsistently in her hand. The air buzzed with low energy, as if charged by something unseen. She hadn't told anyone she was coming back. This time, she was alone. The sphere was still there, nestled in the clearing like a pearl in overgrown velvet. Its hum, if it could be called that, was deeper now. More aware, she approached slowly. When she reached out again, hand trembling, she didn't touch it. She simply stood near it and let it exist beside her. "Still here," she whispered. The sphere responded with a subtle shift in tone, like an instrument tuning itself in the distance. The footage she'd reviewed last night came back in flashes, fragments that didn't make sense, shadows that appeared in one frame and vanished in the next, time codes that skipped, her own voice stuttering on the recording, though she hadn't paused, and one phrase, repeated low and strange under the layers. "This is not the first loop." Her fingers itched to record again. She turned on the mic. Before she could speak, the trees around her rustled, unnaturally in sync. She spun, only to find herself face to face with Dr. Elena Park. "Elena?" Dr. Park looked dishevelled. out of breath. I thought I might find you here. Mara blinked. How? Back at the centre, I isolated a pattern in the background interference. It wasn't random, it was calling to something, or someone. Eleanor took a step closer to the sphere. This wasn't built. It was left. Mara felt the cold return to her hands. By who? Dr. Park looked up. Maybe not who. Maybe when. The words hung like fog. They examined the sphere together. Eleanor ran a handheld scanner over its surface. Readings spiked, then fell into flatline. No consistent radiation signature, she said, but some kind of field. Temporal? Gravitational? She looked at Mara. Both? And then the light changed. Not the spheres, but the clearings. Shadows reversed direction. The sky above flickered like an old film reel. Mara staggered back. The sphere pulsed once, a soft blink, and then it went still. Dr. Park steadied her. It's responding to you. No, Mara said quietly, it's responding to us. They stood there for what felt like minutes or hours, watching the impossible shimmer through the trees. I think, Eleanor said at last, we're inside something we don't understand yet. Like a fold. Mara exhaled. A fold in what? In reality? Neither of them moved. The sphere didn't hum. It listened. Chapter 7. Below the trees. The office was quiet when Mara returned. Not silent, just too still. The kind of still that made you check the lights twice. Her desk light was already on. She hadn't left it that way. Inside her inbox, a small stack of manila folders waited. Her boss, Grant, was in his glass-walled office, staring at the ceiling like it owed him answers. He didn't notice her at first. Late night? She asked, gently knocking. Grant looked up, startled. I was just going over this, he said, gesturing to the folder on his desk. Mara stepped in. What is it? He pushed the folder toward her. Survey permits. Environmental impact studies. A request for long-term installation access just outside Eldridge. All recent. She flipped through the pages. At first, nothing stood out. Bureaucratic jargon, stamped approvals. Then, halfway through, a name caught her eye. A shell company she'd seen before. Government adjacent. Not the kind that built playgrounds. This was near the forest trailhead, she said. Grant nodded. That's where you found the sphere, right? She stared at the location again. They were digging before all this started. Grant was already grabbing his coat. Show me. The forest was colder this time. The trees leaned slightly like they were listening. Mara led, flashlight sweeping through low fog. Grant followed without speaking. The undergrowth had shifted again. Same trail, but less familiar. Then she saw it. Half buried, just past the original clearing, metal scaffolding, flattened grass, cables too neat to be nature's doing. A small generator sat idle, blinking like it had forgotten its purpose. Grant crouched beside a collapsed tent. This isn't an amateur setup. No, Mara whispered. It was a doorway. A faint light flickered behind a tangle of vines. She brushed them aside, revealing a steel hatch embedded in the earth. Hinged. Industrial. Unlocked. Without a word, they descended. The air inside was colder, thinner. A single corridor stretched beneath the forest, lined with low-glow panels and exposed wiring. Terminals blinked in standby. Some still showed readings. Pulse charts, waveform maps, timestamps that looped. At the far end, a round chamber waited. The walls curved inward, like the room had been designed to contain something it couldn't quite hold. In the centre, another sphere. Larger, dormant, familiar. Mara stepped forward. But it wasn't the object that stopped her, it was the sound. Low and rhythmic. Breathing, almost. Machines that had never been powered down. A console near the wall displayed words in flickering green. Project threshold. Status. Active. Grant leaned in. Do you think this is causing the twilight? Mara shook her head. I think it's holding it open. She scrolled through the logs, excerpts from incident reports, internal memos, phrases like unexpected bleed, uncontrolled feedback, and spatial recursion loop active. None of it made sense, and all of it felt true. Grant stood in stunned silence, reading over her shoulder. What is this place? Mara didn't answer. Her pulse had gone cold. They left the way they came, fast, silent, trying not to think too hard about the machine humming beneath their town. Back under the open sky, the twilight hadn't changed. The world was still paused, still watching. She looked down the hill at Eldridge, still asleep in the wrong kind of light. This wasn't just a story anymore. It wasn't even just hers. It was something else, something pushing at the edges of reality. And she was standing right at the seam. Whatever was happening in Eldridge wasn't over. It had barely begun.
Thank you for listening to episode 2 of The Never-Ending Night. A journalist, a sphere, a town that's unraveling. Eldridge isn't just trapped in Twilight. It's unraveling at the edges. And the further Mara goes, the more it feels like something or someone is watching. Next time, the veil lifts a little more. What's underneath may not want to be seen. Stay tuned. EchoZone FM continues. You've just listened to another transmission from EchoZone FM. A brief step beyond the ordinary, into the forgotten, the forbidden, or the future. If you're still hearing us, then the signal is strong. We'll be back soon. Until then, keep your eyes open and your mind unlocked.